Hi there, welcome to another masterclass. And as usual, I'm going to try to summarize the key concepts that you need in order to continue in this journey of gut health. Now, as everyone is so busy, I'm going to really try to do it in less than 30 minutes. So stick with me, do grab a pen and pencil or a pen and a paper, take notes, ask any questions or write down any questions that you might have, and I'm going to be able to address it after. So with that, I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can jump into today's presentation. And we are going to be talking about healing liquids. So here's what you learned this week. First, we're going to understand what happened to dairy and what is the damage that is causing into our digestive system. Then we're going to talk about the calcium myth. I have a lot of clients that ask me, if I don't drink dairy or eat cheese or yogurt, how am I getting my calcium? So we're going to talk about that. The symptoms. I want to describe some of the symptoms that you might be feeling, and that might tell you that you are lactose intolerant, that you might be allergic, or you have sensitivity to dairy. Then we're going to talk about some of the problems with caffeine. As we're talking about healing liquids, I also want to point out what are some of the liquids that aren't as healing, and caffeine is one of them. Then the importance of hydration. So water should be your BFF throughout the program. And so keep that in mind. I'm gonna give you the 5 reasons why you should be drinking water at all times. Then we're gonna discuss some of the healing drinks that you are probably familiar with already. And then we are gonna talk about the key soluble vitamins or fat soluble vitamins that we are adding into our daily meals. Because when I put together our recipes and our protocols, I want to make sure I have the most amount of vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients so that it is very nutritious or it's very nurturing. It has the colors of the rainbow. It's very seasonal. And most importantly, it's thinking in a way that it could be easier to digest, always adding fat, fiber, and protein. So what happened to dairy? Let's just get started. What happened to dairy is that we have this is a great picture. We have the internal linings of our small intestine, or what we call the mucosal membrane cells. They are supposed to be all tied together, like a brick wall, like you see it in there. On the healthy side, you see it on the left-hand side, they're all tied together, and you see how through the membranes, we can absorb the vitamins and the minerals. In that case, we're absorbing a K vitamin, we're absorbing magnesium, and it's going into our bloodstream. Now, if you go to the right side, you're going to see how those membranes, or those villi, as we call it, are being broken, like are being separated. So it doesn't look like a brick cell anymore, or brick wall anymore. It looks like separated brick. And once we create those spaces because of infections, because of medications, because of stress, they inflammate, and so it creates a space in between in which the protein of the gluten, the protein of the dairy, which is casein, goes into our bloodstream, and you can see there you have negative food reactions. So on the left-hand side, it says negative food reactions for gluten, dairy, and soy, which soy, I got this question today, is one of the most processed foods. And so that usually, if it goes through our bloodstream, it creates negative food reactions. Now, if that continues to happen, your immune system can get compromised. You can get allergies. We talked about this asthma. We can get eczema in your skin as well. And also you get nutrient malabsorption. So it's really hard for you to absorb vitamins D, K, B12, and magnesium, and also calcium as well. So a lot of the times it is not a matter of all the supplements that we get in. It's a matter of healing our internal lining, the mucous membrane cell, so that we can absorb all these nutrients. So I thought this was a great picture because it really shows what is happening when we eat things like dairy, gluten, and soy. Now, specifically to dairy, casein is a protein. Just like in gluten, we have the group of proteins as well. So the proteins are a long strand of amino acids, and in the stomach, they get divided into the peptides. Now, these peptides, if they go into the small intestine, are the ones that can go in, as it shows here, and the peptides are the ones that are going to go into the bloodstream and are going to cause us a negative food reaction. Now, also, there's another key here when it comes to dairy that doesn't happen with gluten, and that is if the peptides are so small that they will feed into the opiates, and that is a space within our nervous system. And once our opioid receptors, once we have our peptides that fill into that receptor specifically, they duplicate kind of like the effect of a drug, like a heroin or a morphine. And so in a way, peptides or the gluten or the casein are going to replicate those effects, and we're going to feel like we're addicted. And that's why it's so hard to stop eating cheese. I feel like milk is not that bad because we have great replacements, but when it comes to cheese, it's so hard because they create this feeling of feeling in love with it kind of thing. So I wanted to point this out. It ends up being kind of like a drug, and so it is not great for our digestive system. So we want to try to avoid dairy. Now, the calcium myth. I just want to show you here how there's a lot of other veggies that have more grams than calcium than even whole milk. So it is truly a myth. We are the only mammals that drink milk after we are kind of like grown up already, and that we drink the milk from other mammals, not even from our own mother. Like it only happens in the human species. So obviously, milk is not going to be ideal, and we don't need the calcium that comes from milk. It was more of a brainwash that has been inputted into our minds that milk does have calcium, but we can get calcium from other vegetarian or from other veggies, from other places that aren't going to cause as much disruption in our digestive system. So hopefully that is helpful. Now, going into the symptoms. So how do you know if you are actually being sensitive or allergic to dairy? I think the key here is to be aware. Oh my God, I'm sorry for the bips. It's beeping in my computer. But so the main thing that you need to be aware of is the fact that in order for you to see if you're sensitive or allergic to dairy, you have to remove it and then be aware of the side effects. If we are drinking dairy, and if we're having gluten, and if we're having inflammatory processed foods, then we're not gonna know what's what. So in these protocols that you're in, we are eliminating all the inflammatory foods so that when you can re-add it into your diet, you would know what is causing you what. And I'm gonna help you reintroduce different things so that you are aware and really identify if you're sensible to dairy or if you're more sensible to gluten. So you're gonna realize that as we go through the program. Now, milk has been associated with anemia, autism, diabetes, cancer, asthma. Some of the things that you also might realize that you might have an allergic reaction to dairy is any kind of stuffiness in the sinus area. So if your nose blocks a lot, if you have acne as well, like anything skin-wise, it's related to dairy. If you retain fluid, if you feel like you have mood swings, if you feel depressed, anxiety, headaches, migraines, all of this can lead to realizing that you're lactose intolerant or you are sensitive to dairy. So keep this in mind as we are removing the dairy from your meals, from your day-to-day foods. You're going to be able to realize how you're feeling after we removed it, and once we include it back, if there's any differences. So talking about liquids that aren't ideal for our gut health, coffee or not to coffee. There's a bunch of research that is contradictory. So whether you find that coffee has antioxidant and is great for the mood, great. But when it comes to having a compromised digestive system and we're trying to heal it, I wrote an entire paper about it. It is honestly not the best idea. And that's why we remove it from our protocols. So caffeine is very addictive, and it's a powerful stimulant that raises blood pressure. It also dehydrates the organs and weakens the immune system. It robs us from energies because it stimulates the stress hormones, and that interferes with the body's natural rhythms. So just from that perspective, without going into what happens in your digestive system, it's already not the best idea to be drinking coffee on a day-to-day basis. So what I would also recommend is that you, after you finish the protocol or if you finish the program, you ask yourself these questions. Because at the end of the day, I'm telling you, you can always reintroduce anything that we're removing. Think about this program as something that is temporary, but if you really feel great, think about it as something that is sustainable. So if you, let's say, go back to coffee at some point and you start to feel anxious, irritable, nervous, and then you have insomnia, and then you're feeling fatigue, you have excess nervousness, your heart rate is beating faster. If you feel like you're getting sugar cravings, because what happens is caffeine increases the blood sugar in the blood sugar levels in your blood, and then it brings you down, and then that kind of like stimulates you to wanting to have something to eat. So usually what happens is it's up and then you're down, and then you crave that sweet, like around 3 o'clock in the afternoon or after a coffee. And so what happens is you're having these mountains and these peaks and beaches instead of the mountains and valleys. So usually caffeine does that. And it's also, if you feel like you have excessive wrinkles and dry skin, caffeine is dehydrating you. So we need to talk about drinking more water, which is my next slide. And also, if you're getting sick very often, caffeine can be blamed for that because of your compromised immunity. So I hope we're clear by now. We're removing caffeine, especially if we're talking about healing our gut. Coffee is very acidic too. So if we're trying to keep the pH of our gut into more of the alkalinized way and less acidic, caffeine is definitely not doing that. So let's just try to avoid it as we are already. Now, what are some of the 5 best reasons to drink lots of water? I feel like we need to be reminded of how important water is. So 80% of our body is made out of water, as you know. And there are 5 top reasons that I wanted to share with you. The first one is to re-energize your body. It only takes a little bit of dehydration for you to start slowing down. The enzyme processes and activities are going to slow down, and then your body's going to start feeling fatigue. So if you want to feel re-energized, instead of going for that coffee, go for that water. To metabolize, to absorb, and to poop, proper hydration is so important for every step of the digestive system. So to create the hydrochloric acid, which is going to help us digest our food in the stomach, key to have water. To poop, if you're not pooping enough, you're probably dehydrated. So water is key. And then also saliva is water. Like every step of the digestive process, water is incorporated. So we need to add it. Then to boost our immunity. So as we pee, we're flushing, and as we poop, we're flushing out toxins. Imagine if we don't flush out those toxins, we become way more prone to disease as our immune system becomes compromised. So it's ideal to boost your immunity. Also, to keep your blood flowing. As we know, we need a lot of good protein and fats and antioxidants and vitamins E to keep our blood flowing. But also, if you're dehydrated, the blood is going to start becoming thick, and it's not going to move through our body as nice as it should if we are hydrated. And lastly, you want to keep your ideal weight, drink water. When we're dehydrated, we feel tired, and we tend to confuse that feeling with being hungry or wanting to need fuel in our bodies. I want you to take a step back, and before eating something, when you feel fatigued, drink a lot of water. We talked about this in the past. You need your body, half of your body weight in ounces. So I weighed 134. And then if you divide that, bottom line, I did the math, and I need about 8 ounces of water for me to be hydrated. So what you need to do is take your body, let's say 150 your body weight, divide it in 2, that will give you 75 ounces, divided by 8, so that will be between 10 glasses of water, more or less. So do that math and see how many glasses. I always recommend between 8 and 12, depending on your weight. Now, we're going to talk about the healing liquids. Water is the first one, and then we have the marshmallow root. Marshmallow root is a perennial herb, and the reason why it is so important is because it has mucilage. And mucilage is the constituent or the constituent that is going to help you heal that internal lining of your gut, or the cell membrane. So there is a lot of research that shows that having marshmallow tea, it helps soothe the irritated mucous membrane due to the different conditions that you might have, either whether it is IBS or just a compromised digestive system. So marshmallow root, the tea, helps heal these mucosal membrane cells, okay? That's why it's so important. Now, moving to our second healing liquid, we're talking about the hibiscus flower. Hibiscus flowers, or Rosa de Jamaica in Spanish, the key here is that it has anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. So whenever you're feeling a little inflamed, I tend to have hibiscus flower in tea after my lunch. It really makes me, one, forget about the sweet cravings, and 2, feel less inflamed. So try it. You can drink it warm, or you could drink it with ice, cold, in the summer. So getting towards the end, the last part of the presentation here, what are some of the key fat-soluble vitamins? Those will be the A, D, E, and K. The reason why I wanted to talk about this right now, it's because in this protocol specifically, we are adding a lot of vitamin A's into our bodies, and that is because it is the fall season, and you do get the sweet potatoes, the carrots, the squashes, all of them have a lot of vitamin A. And so you have 2 types of vitamin A's. One that is preformed, and you find them in ghee or whole milk. We're not drinking whole milk, but you're going to find them in ghee, which we use, is a good fat that we use to cook. And then you're going to find them in the other form is the provitamin, or A, the carotenoids. So you can find them in the collards, in the spinach, in the carrots that we're having, in the sweet potatoes that we're having, in the squashes that we're having. And what are some of the functions for vitamin A? It helps with the vision. You've heard this before. Eat carrots for your vision. Skin health, but also the reason why it matters to us is because of the mucous membranes. So again, going back to healing the gut, and that's what vitamin A help us do. What are some of the key things that you might be deficient in vitamin A? If you have night blindness or issues in your skin or low immunity, it might mean that you need vitamin A. Now, what are some of the keys or the signs of toxicity that you're having way too much vitamin A, whether it is in a supplement form, because it's really hard for you to get too much just in foods. If you're getting too much headaches or nausea or abdominal pain, but I wouldn't be worried about that much, unless you're taking a specific supplement for it, which we're not in this course. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, which means if you're drinking them by themselves and you're not having fat with it, then they're not gonna be able to be soluble, so you're not gonna be able to absorb them. That's why these type of vitamins, I recommend that you eat them, that you take them with a meal, because they're fat soluble. So we're gonna move into vitamin D. Vitamin D is what we get from the sun. What are some of the functions? It helps you absorb calcium. So aquí is that connection between what are some of the vitamins that we might be deficient on, and as well as the minerals, and the connection between our gut health. If our gut health or if our internal lining is not healed, then we're not going to be able to absorb the vitamin D, which is not going to help us absorb the calcium, and that's why we become calcium deficient. And even if you take a lot of calcium supplements, you're not going to be able to absorb them. So vitamin D is key. It's also anti-cancer, decreases inflammation, immune response. So it's key. When you do get your blood count with differentiations, or you do get your blood count panels, you're going to be able to see the vitamin D, whether it's in range or not. And that can give you an idea whether you should be having it as a supplement or not. Because remember, I'm trying to do deficiency to sufficiency when it comes to supplements. So it's ideal to get your supplement first. I mean, sorry, your blood sugar, your blood panels, before we can identify whether you're deficient in some of these vitamins. What are some of the sources? They are in the mushrooms, they're in eggs, they're in salmons, they're in shrimp, they're in mackerel, which is a nice fish. So how do you know you're deficient in vitamin D? Again, osteoporosis, because you're not absorbing the calcium. You have allergies. You have asthma. So those are little things for us to keep in mind as we think about some of the vitamins that are important for the functions of our bodies. Vitamin E. The biggest source of vitamin E is sunflower seeds. So it's ideal if you can buy them and just kind of like having them as snack. It's great. They're also in almonds and avocados, in olive oil, in Swiss chard. What are some of the key for functions for vitamin E? They're antioxidants. It's also helpful to thin our blood, because we want them to flow. We want our blood flow to be nice and consistent. So vitamin E helps with that. Increases cellular respiration, reproductive health, and wound healing. Cellular respiration, again, the cells in your membrane are going to benefit from vitamin E. So this is also key for gut health. How do you know that you are vitamin E deficient? If you have nerve damage, cardiovascular disease, infertility is a key one here too. So something to keep in mind as well. Vitamin K is the last of our fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin K, the functions are for blood clotting, for bone health, for blood cell formation, and it also reduces menstrual flow. And you can find them in alfalfa, in collard greens, in spinach, basically in a lot of the greens that we eat. So really key to have these sources of different vitamins in our meal. So this is why we've been through the different vitamins, and all of them have a different color, they're different functions. So it is always important to eat the rainbow. And in these protocols that you're having, you are eating the rainbow, and you have a balance of fiber, fat, and protein, which makes it a complete meal. So with that, look at me. I think I finished just in time. Wait, hold on. Do we have another? Yeah, thank you. So thanks again for watching this masterclass. I hope you find that helpful. And I'll see you in another video, in another class. Bye.